Ducks fans, are you ready? You are listening to the Ducks and Pucks podcast. This is the #1 home for Anaheim Ducks talk and analysis. Here we go.
Welcome to the show. This is your host, Mike Walters, along with my co-host, Eddie Richard. And last time we left off, the Ducks were in the middle of their holiday road trip. And, they'd won some games, they had lost some games, and they finished up that trip against San Jose. And then the Ducks returned home. And unfortunately, the Ducks have been losing a lot of games. So we're going to go into that. We got a lot of fan questions. We got some World Junior stuff to get to, the All-Star game, some of the Stadium Series Winter Classic news as well. But I wanted to ask you a question, Eddie, before we get started. What does the number 8 mean to you? I mean, usually it means, Teemu Selanne, if you're a Ducks fan, but what does it mean to you right now?
It means the shots per game I have to take before watching a Ducks game, especially with, the way things are going. I mean, I'm probably going to bump that number up after tonight's loss.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a Ducks fan out there right now, the number 8 is probably one you don't want to talk about right now. The Ducks have lost 8 games in a row now, franchise worst. So it's not going good, but there's a lot of stuff going on too that we're going to talk about. There's some moves that the Ducks have done, some of the bad luck that they've had in some of these games, along with some of the poor play as well. So we're going to get to all that. We got tons of fan questions out there too. A lot of you answered up. You want to, voice your opinion. You're not happy with this team and what's going on, and I completely understand. So kind of go through some of the games here and then go through a lot of the news, but where we left off last time, Eddie, the Ducks had finished that road trip against San Jose. We actually had a watch party at El Ranchito, which was pretty crazy because you were there and you, amongst a few other people, texted me, and I got there and I almost didn't even have a seat to my own watch party, Eddie.
Yeah, it was crazy. I got there a little early because I'm a time Nazi, and I hate showing up late. So I arrived like about 45 minutes early. I just sat in the parking lot waiting. Like, I'm just gonna hang out. I don't want to be like the person sitting alone. So I get in there 30 minutes before the game, and it's packed. I'm texting like, dude, you might not have a seat. Like, holy crap! It was fun. It was a good atmosphere. It sucked that the Ducks lost, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But I mean, you gave away some sticks, which was really cool. So congratulations on the 2 people winning those. But yeah, I loved it. The atmosphere. There was people sitting at the bar top too because they couldn't get a table. So it was just really good to see. And thank you for everyone coming out to support.
Yeah, it was awesome. And we have a couple more planned too that'll be coming up, which we'll talk about a little bit later in the show. But as far as the game went, the Ducks, finished off this road trip. They actually started out scoring first. Silverberg on the power play. The Ducks are up 1-0. The Sharks then got a couple goals. The Ducks battled back, but ultimately in this one, the Ducks would end up losing 4-2. They got outshot 39-27. Still won the faceoff battle. We talked about how good they had been doing with the draws on the road trip, and then they also got a power play goal. But this game had a little bit of controversy too. Eddie, the game-winning goal by Brett Burns was scored, and the puck pretty much went into the netting. Every other Ducks player thought it did, at least, and it came back down. All of a sudden, it went onto Burns' stick, and he launches a rocket that scores for a goal. But I still thought the Ducks played a decent game. I thought they could have got at least a point, but I thought that was frustrating to see that happen where the refs didn't even review the play, didn't even look at it or anything. And there was just nothing really the Ducks could do about it, and they had to play through it, and they ended up losing. Yeah,
well, the Ducks challenged the goal ready and lost, and that was kind of controversy as well, too, because the knee of a San Jose Sharks player hits our goalie right in the head. And, I mean, come on, it's goalie interference 101. And they ended up scoring it, and nothing gets called on that. And the Ducks challenge it, and they lose. And then seeing the puck in the netting, I wish we would have got some video of that. But every Ducks player just stopped playing once that puck went up. And then, of course, Brett Burns playing in his 1,000th game. Like as the hockey gods write the stories, he scores that game-winning goal, and it's just heartbreaking because, if the Ducks knew that the refs weren't going to call that, they would have kept playing, and maybe, something would have been different. Maybe the goalie would have been more aware, defense would have been more into the play, but, all the Ducks players stopped skating once that happened. It's just kind of it goes to show the inconsistency the league has. It's not just against the Ducks. I'm not just like, hey, poor us, all the refs are against us. No, it's every game. And I watch a lot of hockey, not just, Ducks hockey. And I just see the consistency. And I think majority, if not every fan base can agree with that. there's something needs to happen with these referees, and they need to be held more accountable for missed calls like that. It's just not fair to the players, and it's not fair to the league. And obviously, the lower in the totem pole, it's not fair to the fans to watch either. There needs to be something more structure within the referees, because it seems like it's getting worse every season.
Yeah, I mean, that was pretty bad. They missed that. The puck hit the netting, and obviously it came down in a weird way. Goes to a San Jose player, gets passed over to Burns, they score, and then, what makes it the salt in the wound worse is that it was the game-winning goal in this contest on top of that. So, I agree with you. And there's some other calls we're going to talk about later in these games that the Ducks have, for lack of a better term, gotten screwed on. Doesn't excuse their play. Don't get me wrong about that. But, there's obviously parts of the game where the refs, the Ducks haven't been getting a lot of luck, whether it's hitting the post or these kind of things. So the other big scare in this game was, Gibson got hurt as well. And we didn't know what was going to happen. So the Ducks, finished the road trip on a losing streak. They lost Gibson in this game. They then had Arizona at home, and you weren't sure, this was when Kevin Boyle came up. Nobody was sure what was going to happen. It was kind of, is Gibson out for a while? Is he going to come back? And then lo and behold, he does play in the game against Arizona. And this one's a wild one. The Ducks score 46 seconds into this one. Andre Casse scores a beautiful goal. Sprague scores on the power play. The Ducks up 2-1. Arizona gets a goal back, gets a little bit of momentum at the end on the power play. And then the Ducks come out flying again in the second period. Henrique gets a goal just 12 seconds in the second period. And, the teams go back and forth in the second period. And it ends up that, the Coyotes get 3 goals in the second. They're tied 4-4. They go to overtime. And then, of course, the Ducks, we all know how we love the overtime. They end up blowing it there. But this was a really weird game, Eddie. I thought the Ducks played well, but one of the turning points to me in this game was when they were up 3-1 in the second period. Gibson had a chance to stop this puck behind the net. Instead, it comes out in front, and Fisher gets basically an easy goal and gets Arizona back into it. At that point, it was 3-1 Ducks. Instead, it's 3-2, and I felt like, we talked about the Ducks being unlucky. That play, they got a fortunate bounce, and then they took that momentum because they ended up getting obviously the Ducks got a goal, but Arizona came back and tied it. And no matter how many times the Ducks went up, Arizona always came back in this game. Yeah,
the Coyotes are really real resilient, and they just kept firing back. They didn't give up on the play. They just kept playing the game the full 60 minutes like it's supposed to be played, and even being down. And the Ducks started off the game at a high tempo. You have Casse scoring 46 seconds of the game, just to get that going. And just watching the first few minutes of the game, it's like, all right, man, the Ducks are playing really well. They're playing good. They came out firing. They're coming out fast. They're going to win. And all of a sudden, you have a team that's kind of fighting a little bit harder than the Ducks after they went down. The Ducks seem to take their foot off the gas, and you can't do that. If you go up a goal, you should be thinking about your next goal, and then the next goal after that, and the other one, and the other one. But the Ducks didn't do that. And, both teams came to play, but one team came to play a little bit more than Ducks did.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's unfortunate the way it ended too. They gave up that 2-on-1, in the 3-on-3 overtime, and it ended up, Ducks getting knocked out. So it didn't work out for them. The Ducks is still, like we said, they're doing some things right. They dominated in the faceoff circle in this game, 66% they won. They got another power play goal. They got 41 shots in this game. You really thought that they had it, but they just couldn't hold on to it. And, they had about 45 seconds of bad play in the second period, which allowed Arizona to get back into it. And, I think if they could have stopped one or two of those, they would have had a chance. So, that's what we've seen with this team. It's kind of a theme. And I know we got a lot of fan questions that we're going to get to about this losing streak and what's going on with the Ducks. But I think you mentioned it in here, and it's something that we've seen throughout the season. I remember one of our shows was even titled, how they're consistently inconsistent. And in this game and some of the other games we saw too, they have moments of greatness, and then they have moments where they slump. And, that's where I thought in the second period, after they built that 4-2 lead, they got a little bit too lax. And like you said, they weren't thinking about that next goal or keeping their foot on the pedal.
Exactly, and that's the story of this season. And I can even go back last season too. The Ducks just can't find a way to play full games. It seems, the second period curse, it flips around a little bit. Sometimes it goes to the first period or third period. Just the Ducks can't seem to play that full hockey game. And I don't know what the issue is with that. the thing going on for a while now. I just wish, the Ducks have a good team and they have a lot of, strong players that can put the puck in the back of the net. I mean, they're being carried by all-star John Gibson, and they just seem just to let it go. And it's sad sometimes. I think someone posted on our DucksNPucks Twitter page if Chad Johnson's going to be in. And I was hoping they pulled Gibson, not because Gibson played poorly. It's because the Ducks are playing poorly in front of him, and it's not fair for him to be just hung out like that. I mean, give him some rest, because like we talked about on our last show, we think that he's going to play those 60-plus games this season. But when the Ducks aren't, willing to go out there and play that 60-minute game for their goaltender, then they should just give him a rest. And I really hope Gibson's vocal, and he talks about that as well, because it's not fair to him, and it's not fair for, the whole team in general. Them just, playing laxy-daisy. I mean, you have leaderships and roles in that team with Henrique, with Kessler, with Getzlaf. They need to start stepping it up, all three of them. They need to start telling other players to step up. They need to lead by that example and not just glide. And then Getzlaf is guilty of that, too. I've seen Getzlaf on plays when he doesn't get the puck or it's turned over, he just glides. No, you start skating your butt off to get that puck regardless, to show the team what to do. And I just really hope the Ducks figure out something and kind of curb this playing 45 minutes a night, because it's not going to work. You have to play this game, and everyone can tell you, from every pro to a rookie player, you have to play the full minutes of hockey to win a game. If not, I mean, it's going to come back and you're going to end up losing, especially against a team that came to play and they're willing to play a 60-minute game.
Yeah, I mean, you make a good point. And, they even talked to Randy Carlisle, too, about Getzlaf's play recently, and they were talking about how he's been in a drought, which, in these games, these games we're all talking about, he didn't get any points. During this losing streak, the Ducks, go in this 8-game drought. He has not scored in the last 7 games. And Carlisle was talking about how he's, trying to do the backhand passes and be a little fancy and stuff like that. And I think part of it is he's not keeping the game simple, getting the puck on net and just making those, those regular good passes that he does. So that's been part of the issue. I was surprised in this game against Arizona. Like you said, I thought Johnson was going to come out and play this game. You had Gibson. He got knocked around the game against San Jose. They're playing Arizona, not to take anything against Arizona away, but, it's not a powerhouse team. Throw Johnson in there and see what he could do. But they didn't. They went with Gibson again. And just like our poll question, we were talking about if Gibson will play 60 games or not this season. And it looks like he's going to, because, they kept on rolling with him. The Ducks then hosted Tampa Bay on New Year's Eve. And this was probably one of the few games I thought the Ducks actually played better. They outshot Tampa Bay 36-35, though they had held a bigger advantage earlier in the game. They, like we talked about, keep winning the faceoffs as well. They won almost 60% in this game, and they gave up the first goal, but then Nick Ritchie came back and scored. There was no scoring in the rest of the way until the overtime. And of course, as we've talked about, the Ducks, they blew it in the overtime, only 35 seconds in. But this game was a goalie battle. And, between Velasquez and Gibson. And I thought it was a hard-fought game. The Ducks got a point in Arizona game. They got a point in this one as well. And I think this was the best game they played. Eddie, it's just unfortunate that they had to lose this one in overtime.
Oh, absolutely. They played a powerhouse team. Tampa Bay went undefeated in the month of December, and they barely lost their game. I think it was yesterday against the Sharks. But like you said, it was a goalie battle. Gibson played well. Vasilevsky played amazing as usual. Gibson robbed a few chances from Stamkos twice, and then Braden Point too, showing the glove. I mean, I hope players, I pray that players keep shooting on Gibson's glove side, because he has that on point and on lock. It was a great one to watch. It was a fun, fast-paced game, and I mean, we went toe-to-toe with the best team in the league, and we only lost 2-1 in overtime. I mean, and this game, Ducks didn't, let their foot off the gas. They played that 60-minute game, and this is what I love to see. I can take a loss like this. If the Ducks just came out to play a full 60-minute game and they took a loss, you know what? Tampa Bay played a little bit better. I mean, sometimes, unfortunately, it doesn't work out, for us, but at least, they came out to play. If they came out to play with this tempo, we wouldn't be talking about 8-game losing streak right now, and people wouldn't be freaking out about Randy Carlisle, which we'll talk about that later. And I just love what I saw, and it's a great game, and I just wish the Ducks would just thrive off that and build off that and play like that each and every game.
Yeah, I think part of the issue, too, we've seen in this has been the passing of this team. When the Ducks are able to make, consecutive passes in a row, and not have to always dump the puck in, like we've talked about the dump and chase with Carlisle and whatnot. They seem to do better. And that's been the issue. This game, it wasn't so much, but throughout these recent games, and when they had the other losing streak too earlier in the season, it always seems like they make the one pass, and then sometimes they make the second pass, or sometimes they dump it in, but they never seem to get, more than 2 passes in a row connected. And I think that's been part of the issue. It wasn't so much in this game. Actually, like you said, they played a good game. They got on the forecheck. They were getting their shots and whatnot. And I liked what I saw in this game. I thought they just came up a little bit short. And I thought that they could build off this game. I really did. I thought, hey, it wasn't the perfect game, but I mean, they played, the league's best team and, took them to overtime. So you would thought, okay, the Ducks, they got a point in Arizona, a point in Tampa Bay. You got Vegas coming to town. You would think, okay, they can take care of the Knights maybe, which, the Ducks have had some trouble with them, but the Ducks have played them competitively. And this game, kind of exposed some of the Ducks' weaknesses. Vegas is a fast-skating team, obviously. The Ducks tried to match that, and they could not match that in this game. But a lot of stuff was going on in this game. Vegas scored first. They had a delayed penalty against the Ducks. It looked like the Ducks had control of the puck. They didn't blow the whistle. And Nate Schmidt scores the first goal, makes it 1-0, and everybody's going nuts. I remember being there. The crowd was going crazy, rightfully so. And then in the second period, the Ducks came out strong. You get 2 goals, in about 20 seconds. They take that 2-1 lead, and you thought, here we go. The Ducks are going to take them out. They're putting their foot on the gas pedal, giving it to Vegas. But like we said, they have those lapses, and then they ended up giving up 2 goals in about 30 seconds halfway through the period, and now Vegas had the lead. And, the Ducks tried in the third period. I actually thought the third period was probably the best 20 minutes they played in these 60-minute game here. But Ducks came up short. They got outshot 42-27. They actually lost the faceoffs in this one, which is rare. The Ducks are usually winning them. But this was an interesting game, Eddie. A lot of controversy around that first goal. I thought the Ducks handled it well and came back and, could have won this game. But then, like we said, they had some more lapses, and they couldn't get it done.
Nope. Once again, another loss. And it's unfortunate that that goal wasn't, that puck wasn't blown dead. I mean, the game could have been different if the Ducks, didn't get that first goal scored against them. It's just really unfortunate. And like I talked about earlier too, I mean, the inconsistency of the referees. I mean, yeah, it seems like they're reading these rules and it's kind of ambiguous. Like, what is possession? Like, what does it mean to them? Like, it should be just, a simple set guideline and not transition from game to game. And it's just unfortunate for the Ducks, I mean, it's part of their fault. They started the first period, getting outshot 17-6. They didn't really come to play. They let Vegas walk all over them. Like you said, they tried to match the speed of Vegas, which obviously they're not as fast as Vegas. And it ended up, coming up and biting them in the butt. And then all these penalties of the referee faking dropping the puck and then calling a penalty for a faceoff violation. It's like, really? Come on, dude. And then right after that, Kessler gets hit with a double minor high stick. And the Ducks played great in the third period. They killed off that 5-on-3. They outshot Vegas. They outplayed Vegas. It took Vegas, I think, halfway through that to actually get a shot on net. So that was pretty good on the Ducks' part. And there was a play, too, where the puck bounced off the thing and went right in front. I think Flower went to go play it, and the puck bounced off the boards and goes right in front of the net. Empty net with a Ducks player. Unfortunately, he didn't have his stick down. And any level of hockey you play, if people listening, your kids are playing hockey, if you're going to start playing hockey, the number one rule is keep your stick down on the ice. Because if his stick, I think it was Cogs or Ronnie, whoever it was, I have no idea. I totally forgot the Ducks player, but his stick was on the ice. That could have an easy goal right there, and this game could have changed. It could have probably possibly went to overtime. It could have got that point, or we probably would have just won that game and took all the steam out of Vegas.
Yeah, you're right. This game was frustrating because, like you said, the first period the Ducks didn't come out to play. But, yeah, there was a lot of discussion I saw on social media about possession and control of the puck, and I saw some people talking about the definition of possession. They were pointing to Rule 56 and the NHL rulebook. Well, if you go look up that rule, it's talking about interference with skaters. So that rule doesn't really apply as far as this delayed penalty thing. You have to look up Rule 15.1, which talks about controlling the puck. And if you look at that rule and the way it's defined in the NHL rule book, it talks about if you touch the puck with your stick, you make a pass, you kick the puck with your skate, any of that is deemed controlling the puck. Well, Gibson stopped the puck, and then he also swatted away, in a passing type manner or to clear, whatever. But either way, he touched it twice in that same sequence. So that first goal shouldn't have been allowed. They never reviewed it. They never gave Carlisle an explanation, which was a bunch of BS for lack of a better term. And then, like you said, the penalties that were called late in the third, I think really slowed down the Ducks. It's difficult when you're down a goal and you got to kill off almost 5 minutes worth of penalties because of the Henrique face-off penalty. And then Kessler, I don't know why they called a double minor. I'm still baffled at that. 2 minutes for roughing. Okay. I don't get 4 minutes, though. It just blows my mind. But, I mean, that's the way it goes. The Ducks didn't get the calls. Like you said, they had a bounce, and then they couldn't get the stick on the ice. It's just kind of been the theme. It's been poor play. Don't get me wrong. I'm not making excuses, but the Ducks have not had certain calls go their way, and they haven't had certain bounces that go their way too. So, I mean, it's just a tough game. I think, like you said, though, they got behind early and it didn't work out, and that didn't help them. And that's the thing. They're still not playing that 60-minute game. Unfortunately. And the Ducks, they got good news after this game. We knew that through the practices that had been going on the couple days towards the end of these last games, we knew that Fowler was out there with a face shield. Raquel was skating out there. And the Ducks actually got some players back. We know that Fowler came back and played in this last game against Edmonton. Raquel is still in the IR, but he should be back soon. The Ducks did get Holzer back as well. They sent him down to San Diego. They also sent Street and Dotson down there as well. They both had passed waivers already, and so they sent him down. So, the Ducks, you'd think, okay, they lost 7 games in a row. You have Edmonton coming to town. We always like to make it dramatic and come back and beat Edmonton, but this game was probably the worst game of the whole this last week and a half or whatnot. The Ducks got down 3-0 in the first period. Especially giving up a shorthanded goal late at the end of the first period, and just really an ugly game. They ended up giving up another goal. They got down 4-0. They started, trying to fight and do things. They outshot Edmonton in this game 39-24. They won the faceoffs too, but it's just a tough game, Eddie. You get Fowler back. You think you have some momentum, and they had a lot of shots, but they just that first period, just like in Vegas, they just couldn't get it done. They got blown out of the water really bad in the first 20 minutes. Oh, yeah, that shorthanded goal, too, in the first. That just kind of that was the icing on the cake, it seemed like. But, yeah, I had hope, though. Edmonton chokes when they come up to the, play against the Ducks. So I was like, all right, we've been down 3 before. Maybe we can get up. And that fourth goal, okay, maybe, I was expecting a big comeback. But no, the Ducks couldn't get it done. They played well in the first. They didn't play bad. Just they weren't clearing in front of the net. They're letting players walk right in. They're letting traffic in front of Gibson, and no one was there to be found. But third period, they came. They threw everything at Cam Talbot, made him look like a superstar today, goalie, and he hasn't been playing that well. He got beaten out by his backup, and they played the same amount of games, but he just hasn't been on top of it. But I guess, today he was on his game, and I guess every goalie has that one game they're going to play on fire, and that was it today. So it kind of sucked. And then Lucic, too, of course, he wants to start mouthing off to Montour, and they get into it. I just wish one of the Ducks players would just went and dropped the gloves with them. You're down 3-0 already. You're down 4-0 now when that happened. Drop the gloves. Change the momentum. Let's get back to that old school physical mentality. Edmonton had everything going their way, the whole momentum swing, and you're not willing to drop the gloves to change that. Maybe a fight would have, got the crowd back into it, would have changed the tempo of the game. And that's one thing I wanted to see a little bit more for the Ducks. I keep saying this all the time. I miss that old school hockey. I don't want anyone to get injured at all or hurt. Trust me, that's not my intention at all. And I feel bad when a player gets hurt or injured. But I just, that's part of the game, and things like that, they change it. Back when the most popular Ducks player, George Peros, back in the day when Ducks were down, he used to drop the gloves, and then all of a sudden the Ducks sparked up. The fans got into it, and the tempo changed the Ducks' direction, and we won a few games that way. I wish we can just get back into that, and not just be down 4-0, let their
pretty much enforcer, because he hasn't been putting up any points really, start running his mouth and not really doing anything about it, not having an answer to it.
Yeah, and I mean, this basically tailspins into all of our fan questions and everything, because of course everybody's upset right after this game. And then during the third period, Kevin Weeks tweets out that the eyes are on the Anaheim Ducks, quote, down 4-0 to the Edmonton Oilers. Should they lose tonight, it will be their 8th straight loss, hearing there could be a potential coaching change in the near future. Of course, I don't know what near future means, but we did talk about Carlisle and him getting the boot earlier in the season. I was pretty animated on that show. I was drinking, which I am now too as well, and I'm sure a lot of you probably were after this loss to Edmonton, or probably the last couple losses. It's just the way you got to cope with this stuff sometimes. But anyways, he sends that out, and then everybody goes nuts in the third period. Tailspins all the fan questions. Everybody's going crazy. We're not really going to talk about Carlisle and him being gone because we've already talked about that. And I'm not going to beat that dead horse. But I think the thing is we really got to look at this team. If they do decide to move on from him, we talked about, Dallas Eakins being one of the options. Obviously, the goals are now playing well, which would kind of be a shame because if he comes up, then who would take over the goals? So that's been something that, Eddie and I talked about in the past and some other people have as well. But the biggest thing is how do we turn around and right this ship, regardless if Carlisle stays or goes. And that's what, a lot of the fan questions were, and we'll go through a bunch of these. A lot of you respond on Twitter, you guys just full of emotion, which is totally understandable. And one of them we had, Eddie, is from Alexander. He asked, with the offense being a concern, do we see a possibility of a need for a solid veteran defenseman through a trade? Obviously talking about Raquel, Perry, and Eves trying to return to the lineup. I don't know if it's necessarily a trade for defense that's going to help this team. I mean, we did mention some people to look at. We are going to have a show previewing more potential, players as the trade deadline comes up. But for me, when we're talking about these other players, the forwards and whatnot, I think the biggest problem is we, had Raquel this season. We expect him to do well. Obviously, he's hurt, but he has not had the season he has had before. Obviously, we're still waiting for Perry. Eves is out as well. And, you also have Kessler and Getzlaf that aren't doing much of anything. Kessler hasn't scored, I think we were talking about, in 28 games. And Getzlaf hasn't done anything in the last 7 games out of the 8 with the Ducks have been losing. So I don't really see them trading for a defenseman right now. It's hard too. I mean, some of these guys you can't really trade. You can't go trade a Getzlaf or a Perry, or a Kessler with their contracts. So, I don't see them doing it right this second. I mean, I would think they would get rid of Carlisle first, but I don't know, Eddie. I mean, is there anybody that you think the Ducks may trade on defense? I know we did talk about, trade for defense. I know we did talk about Silverberg because he's unsigned. It's kind of at the top of the list, but he's also one of the few that's doing well. He's got 10 goals. So I don't see it happening, but what's your thoughts, Eddie?
I don't really think defense is necessarily going to help our offense score more goals. I think they need to step up. I can't see our GM making a big move for defense and giving up some assets for that. I was reading earlier that Dougie Hamilton's on the trading block from Calgary, and I mean he's a really good defenseman. He's probably one of the top defensemen in the league. But player like that caliber is gonna want definitely a first round pick and some prospects. I don't and our prospects that we have are really bright, and I can see them changing the game of our way of our team when they come up. But I honestly I can't see them their issue being fixed by bringing in, kind of a Dougie Hamilton kind of player. And like you said it earlier, the Kessler and Getzlaf, they need to step up. They need to lead by example. They need to start, keeping it simple and stop with those little backhand cute passes. I know it's annoying when people do this, but shoot the damn puck. Shoot. I mean, good. There's this one okay hockey player, I think. I forgot his name, but he said, you miss 100% of the chances that you don't take or shots you don't take or whatever, something like that. That's some decent hockey player. I think he's Gretzky or something his name is. I don't know. But he said that. At this point, losing 8 freaking games, shoot the effing puck on net. Get everything on net and create traffic. I just don't think a defender is going to help that. I think we need to make a trade? Absolutely. We need to bring someone in that can score some goals for us, that can just do that 1-2 punch. And we've been needing that left wing on the top line, a solid top line guy for a while. Is it going to happen with the track record of our GM? Most likely, probably not. Most likely he's just going to trade for someone that's, like a bottom six, and hopefully, they'll spark the team like an Aberg did when they brought him in on waivers. But I can't see that's going to fix the issue. I think the issue is internally, and the Ducks need to change something. And I've said this, and like you said, we're not going to go and beat a dead horse or dead duck, as I say. But I mean, I use this analogy, like you broke up with your ex-boyfriend or girlfriend for a reason, so why in the hell are you going to go back to them like the Ducks did? Why are they going to bring back a coach they fired? Because the same problems they fired him for are occurring right now. So, I mean, that's my take on it. If you guys want, we'll post a link to our previous show discussing more on Carlisle and our stance on that, and about him being fired or him being staying, and who can possibly replace him. So we'll go ahead and post that link too shortly after this show.
Yeah, like you said, we talked about it before. We thought that Eakins would be the next likely choice. When the whole Coach Q thing went down, we obviously talked about that, but there's no way because of however much money he's going to want. And the Samuel I don't see them paying for that. So that's what we had gone with, which we don't know. We don't know if they're going to do anything. We did talk about, too, on the last show about the whole Carlisle situation, which was a couple weeks ago. But when they had the other losing streak, we said it was going to take another losing streak. And obviously now you have Kevin Weeks talking about it. The Ducks have their worst losing streak. So it's there. But again, trying to turn the ship around, we had Andrew ask, with the addition of, Fowler and hopefully Raquel, will that help the team get back on their winning ways, or does something else need to be done? And I still don't think that's enough. I mean, Fowler came back in this game against Edmonton. It didn't really work out. Obviously, the Ducks losing 4-0. Getting Raquel back would help, but Raquel needs to start scoring goals too. He hasn't been doing what he did, recently. So he's not been on the same page. Kessler's not been on the same page, which we talked about. And I think with him, his issue is still, I really don't think he's 100%. You watch him play, he's winning faceoffs, but that's about it. He's like Vermette 2.0. I saw a few people talk about on social media. I mean, that's really true. I mean, that's kind of what he is. Unfortunately, he's had those issues. If you watch him play, he's not checking people hard. He's not as mobile as well because of his hip. I mean, it is what it is. And then now you've got Getzlaf too, and he's in a slump. He's not scoring or doing anything, and he's being almost a negative player almost every night on the ice as far as his plus minus rating, which, obviously that doesn't tell the whole story, but I mean, there's that as well. So I don't know if just bringing back Fowler and Raquel is going to help. We know Eves has been practicing, but he's still not back. We also know Perry has been working out. He has not skated with the team, but he's hurrying to get back too. Obviously, he had been slumping in the last couple seasons, as you all know. You all voiced your concerns about that. So I think for this team to really turn it around, which also George asks us if they can right the ship, I think it's going to take a lot of things, Eddie. There's a lot of things going wrong with this team. I think injuries are part of it, but even if the Ducks get back these players need to step up their game. I mean, you need Getzlaf and Kessler to start getting things going. And I mean, Getzlaf, to his credit, he's been out there saying, hey, I'm not playing what I should be doing. I need to turn it up. So that's what we need. We need Raquel, Kessler, and Getzlaf to get their games going offensively. I mean, if you look at this team, and you were going to talk about who is going to be leading the team in scoring, and I'd be talking about Pontus Aberg, you'd be like, what? You'd be like, who's that guy? Because obviously in the beginning of the season, he wasn't there. So you're looking at things like that. And I think those players need to step it up. And, that's a huge part of it. I think maybe making a trade down the road when the trade deadline comes up. The Ducks did make a minor trade. I don't think it's going to help much. I mean, they sent Carew to St. Louis, and they brought over Jared Thomas, who been doing good, but it's a minor league trade. They haven't done anything big, and I think that's part of the problem. But what do you think, Eddie, as far as the Ducks trying to right the ship, as George talks about, or what Andrew mentions about Fowler and Raquel coming back? Do you think a certain player comes back that's going to change the team, or what do you think it's going to take to get this team back in the right direction?
I think if Raquel comes back and starts scoring at the pace he was last season, and he's the player that he was last season, obviously, yeah, it's going to make a difference. He scored some huge goals for us last season when we were down, and we ended up coming back and winning the game. So definitely, if he starts getting hot, I mean, he's a player to watch out for. And if we just get 2 more guys on the line with him that get hot, and that's it. I mean, Ducks can get out of this slump, and we'll be hopefully talking about a franchise record in wins. Hopefully that happens soon. Look at Colorado with that McKinnon, Landeskog, and Ranson in line. That top line is the reason why that team is where they are and in a playoff position. So just, if Raquel comes back and he just could, play his best and start scoring some goals or creating chances or dishing at the puck and having other players score and start igniting other players' fire, and that would be great. And yeah, that can make a big difference, in my opinion. Cam coming back too. I wasn't expecting him to do too much. He was out for a while. He's coming off that facial injury. Obviously, he wasn't going to play. I'm pretty sure he was still a little timid. I can't believe he went with the half shield too today. That was kind of. I mean, the balls on that guy. I would never. I still wear a full cage because I'm afraid to, hurt my beautiful face. That's how I make my money. I'm just playing, but no, but If Cam starts getting hot too, creating chances, shooting the puck more from the blue line, getting a rebound to one of the players in front, or scoring some goals, clearing the traffic, I mean, that can be a game changer too. Just if you just think about it, if the Ducks would clear that traffic when some of those goals are scored, I mean, they're not going to be down, 1-0 or 2-1 or 3-1. No, that's a game changer. So our players just need to step up, and hopefully Raquel just, I hope whatever was going on with him is over. He comes back healthy, he comes up fired up, and he just starts playing Raquel kind of hockey. I mean, hopefully that happens. And if it does, who knows what the Ducks can do?
Yeah, I mean, I think that like you were talking about, it's going to take a group effort getting these guys back, but they also got to be playing well. I mean, Fowler did play a lot in that game against Edmonton. He had 22 minutes of ice time. Out there, only Lindholm had more, and he had almost 4 minutes on the power play as well. So he came back out there pretty good as far as his ice time. But yeah, I mean, these guys are going to have to step it up. I mean, in a group effort. I mean, you can't rely on Silfverberg. He had 10 goals. Okay, we know Auberg's been scoring goals too, but those aren't the guys that should be leading your team. I mean, and like we said, you're missing some guys. You have Kasse, who's obviously been doing well. He's been a very bright spot for the team, but there's just not a lot of consistency offensively with this team. They're only scoring 2.35 goals a game, which is 30th in the league, second worst. So they went up. Remember, they're only barely getting over 2 goals a game, but they're also giving up almost 3 goals a game. They're giving up 2.91 against per game. So, I mean, you're almost giving up a full goal difference there. I mean, it's not working out well. And then we've talked about special teams. They've been decent on the penalty kill, but the power play has been non-existent. They're at 14.9%, which is 27th in the league. That's another issue. And they're still giving up a lot of shots against, like we said, which could tire out Gibson. They're giving up 34.6 shots against a game. So there's a lot of things that need to change with the team overall. It's not just they're not scoring, but they're still giving up too many opportunities to their team. They're not getting in front of the net and blocking all the shots. And like we said, they're not being as aggressive offensively or defensively. I don't see them taking the body as much, kind of like you talked about. Not necessarily just the fights. I mean, yeah, that's one thing to have someone to go out there and send a message and pump up your team. But you just don't see that hard-hitting, grinding Ducks team that we've seen before. It seems like they've laid off a little bit, and I think that's been part of the issue. At least in this last couple of weeks where they've been losing these games, unfortunately, is it's that, and then they're not playing the 60 minutes. So I think, yeah, they got to get some players back, and we'll like we said, talk about the trade deadline as it gets closer. They made that little minor trade, nothing big. I know Eddie's favorite player, Future Considerations, was involved in that because the trade was announced in 2 parts. Carew was sent earlier in the day, and then they talked about getting Jared Thomas on the way back, but it basically was a 1-for-1. I don't know, but I do see Future Considerations getting traded a lot in the last couple of days. So he's out there. If you want him, we can get that jersey customized for you, and maybe we can squeeze it on the back. I don't know. We might get future and then like part of considerations or maybe like F considerations. I don't know. We have to work it out. But no, but on a serious note, this team, there's a lot of work to be done. And I mean, we've already talked about Carlisle being gone. That's one of the big things. But looking past that, you have to look at this team, look at the players that aren't stepping up. And there's a lot of players that aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing. The big name players, as we said, they're not there for the Ducks. There's just, lack of scoring going on from a lot of players that you would expect to be the constant sources. And you've got some guys that are still out too as well. So that's a lot of it. I think, Eddie, I don't really have too much more to add as far as the issue with this team. I just know when Pontus Aberg is your leading scorer on your team for goals, that your team is in serious dire need of some help. And you've only got 3 guys that have 10 goals and over halfway through the season. It's not good.
It's terrible. I've seen it, but it's hearing it out loud. It stings me more. It makes me want to run down and crack open that Jack bottle I'm saving in the freezer. Like, man, it's bad. I mean, no offense to Aberg at all. I'm glad he's having a successful season with Anaheim, but I mean, our big guns that are getting paid the big money need to step up. And I hope when Perry comes back and fully healed, I hope he steps up and ends up being that scorer and stuff. Or maybe bring up future considerations. Maybe he can help our team. No, but all seriously, I'm trying to figure out why the teams do that with the future considerations thing, especially with the trade that happened, the little minor trade with St. Louis. So I'm going to dig deeper and go to a couple of practices, and hopefully, Bob Murray's there, and I can pick his brain if he lets me to ask him, because I'm always curious to see. Obviously, there's a method to the madness, and I'm confused. I looked it up on the internet. I tried to ask Dan Wood, and he didn't know either. So I'm going to try to figure that out, and I'll write up about it and post it so I can give that knowledge to you, especially you hockey nerds that want to know everything about hockey like me, because when I don't know something about hockey, it irritates the crap out of me.
Yeah, it's usually just draft picks that – usually one pick, and they just haven't decided what round or whatnot, unless they do, like they announce this one part of it in the morning and part of it later in the day or whatnot. But that's usually what it ends up being. But yeah, it is kind of weird. They just say future considerations. So they're like, well, okay, it's a draft pick, but what round and what year or how many picks or whatever? It's so vague. So, that's just usually the part of it that comes with those trades when they're just trying to work out something, usually when it's a minor trade, nothing with a big name player usually, but sometimes it is part of a bigger trade. If it's something that they add in there at the end or something, they may say, oh, we'll throw you a draft pick and later on, and we'll just call it future considerations until we decide or whatever. And I'm sure they have some idea what it is. They just don't announce it and label it as future considerations. So that way they're not like locked into whatever pick that they're planning to trade. So, kind of shifting some gears here, that the World Junior Championship was going on during this last couple of weeks too, and the Ducks had a lot of prospects that were involved in that, and unfortunately, all those teams were booted out and did not make it to the medal games. Team Finland ended up actually beating Team USA out for gold. I'm happy for Team Finland. I was happy for Team USA. I know they got farther than Team Canada, which was a surprise to many, including myself. So I'm happy to see those teams up there as 1 and 2. It was a fun tournament to watch. And then, of course, we know that the big controversy came out with, Max Comtois and Canada getting eliminated. It was really crazy during this last week, Eddie, the whole thing that went down. I don't even know where to start with this, but you had Max Comtois being praised for being the captain. He comes out in the first game of the tournament. He scores, 4 goals, and everybody's going nuts. He's like the savior of Canada. And then he has incidents of diving and missing a penalty shot. And now all of a sudden, he's the devil basically. And people lashed out on him on social media. And, it's just disappointing. This is the one part I didn't like of it. He ended up having to turn off the comments on his Instagram account because of this stuff. And it's just frustrating. Plus, we learned that he was hurt too. He had a separated shoulder. Now it looks like he's going to be out for a couple of weeks. But these young guys, these 18, 19, 17-year-olds, whatnot, all playing in these type of games. It's a tournament, and they're juniors, and they're playing in this stuff, and it's just crazy. And it was disappointing not to see any of the Ducks prospects to get into those, couple medal games. But this part of it kind of overshadowed it. And it's just an unfortunate situation, Eddie. We see a lot of this on social media now and society in general with, people going at it and whatnot. And I think he handled it well. They issued a statement, too, talking about it, saying that they weren't going to, validate any of the, quote, cowardly comments made on social media, and that they wanted to use this as a thing to bring light to cyberbullying and how it's a real problem. So I thought he and his representatives handled it very well, but really disappointing to see a guy who is going to be a star. You mark my words, you listen to this podcast and you save this episode, because he will be a star in the NHL. Mark my words. And for him to go through this, I just thought was completely unfair and uncalled for, and especially the change, from a couple games of being a hero to being a villain. It's just a crazy sequence to me, Eddie, in these couple games in the World Junior Championship.
Oh, I agree. I 100% agree with you when you say he's going to be a star, and he is. He's a hell of a player, a great player. He's an all-around player. He can shoot. He can pass. His vision's great. He can hit. He's a smart hockey player, and I'm glad that he's on the Ducks. I think it's absolutely disgusting about the comments that he was being subjected to because he lost in the World Juniors. Like he intentionally did it. And he's over there representing your country of Canada, because it was the majority of Canadian fans upset because he lost for them. He's over there representing your country. Have some class, have some pride. If you have an issue, get your ass up and out of your mom's basement and stop hiding behind a screen. If you want to talk shit to someone, go to their face and say it. I guarantee all those people that are posting all that crap wouldn't say a damn word to any of these hockey players, or they wouldn't say a damn word if people knew who they really were. One of the analysts, I think, posted saying that, he wishes that Twitter and Instagram and things like that would screen more and make you put your employment or school or your real name in photos and stuff. So you can't hide behind that, because on Twitter you can just say like, "Hey, I am dark black blue 93," and say whatever you want. It just sucks that they attacked a teenage kid for he gave it his all. I mean, yeah, maybe he dove and flopped a little bit. Hey, most of us done it. It's part of the game, and no one has a right to talk crap to him at all. All because you watch hockey, you don't understand the game at all. You never played in the National Hockey League. I've played over 15 plus years hockey. I skated with 2 NHLers playing pickup. Some of my friends play pro hockey. I don't know what the hell really goes on in an NHL, because I've never played in that level of hockey. To sit there and judge a kid for him trying his best, he missed a penalty shot and had a separated shoulder, and you're just going to say those comments? I mean, come on, get a life. If not, get the hell off and go watch some other sport where that's I guess liked. Hockey's a great, I think it's the best sport in the world, in the universe, if there's any planets out there. And that kind of behavior, it just seems like, you don't know what the game's about, and you shouldn't even be part of it. And you're not part of it because you're not a real fan. If you subject people and players and talk to another human being like that, wishing he has AIDS or HIV or dies, like, come on, people, get a grip. You are not a hockey fan. And if any of you guys disagree with me, I'm more than willing to talk to you in person about this, but it's just absolutely disgusting what he had to go through. But credit to him, he handled it like a true professional athlete, and his representatives posted a thing, and it just proves that, that this happens every single day. And if this happens to you or anyone I mean, don't be afraid to speak up and talk to someone about it, because it's not fair, and you shouldn't, or any player or any person should be subjected to those kind of words at all.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing really more to say. The only thing I would add to this is, I think it's difficult for people now. I'm dating myself, but when I grew up in the 80s, we didn't have social media. A lot of people didn't have cell phones, or if you had a cell phone, it was a big box type thing, or we had pagers, which a lot of the younger generation, if you're listening, you probably don't even know what a pager is, but back in the day, if you had a pager, you were like some important businessman or some kind of drug dealer or something. I mean, it was like a big deal back in the day to have a pager. And it was a big deal to have a cell phone back in the day as well. Like I said, dating myself. But now with technology. I joke, but people were born with, coming out of the womb with iPads and cell phones and computers and all this stuff. And I think it's unfortunate because, I mean, I get it. We're in a competitive world and you need to learn technology and whatnot like that. And I'm not here to discuss parenting options and stuff, but I think that we as a society as a whole get exposed to technology so fast. And with it comes social media, which it's up to you how you raise your kids. If you want to give them a cell phone at 5, I mean, that's up to you. I didn't have one till I was 18. So, I mean, again, a different time when I grew up. So I get it why people are having stuff sooner. I'm not here to debate that. But I do think as far as the social media realm goes, I would try to hold back and keep people from that. Because, I mean, this guy and these other guys, they're, teenagers. And they're getting exposed to this kind of stuff. I mean, it's just uncalled for. I mean, when you're an adult and you see this stuff, it's easy. You look at it, you're like, okay, I'm going to just ignore. I'm not going to reply, whatever. But these guys are getting scrutinized over a game that they're giving it their all and they love. And they're still growing. They're still, they're not even quote unquote men yet. You know what I mean? They're not in their 20s yet. They're still teenagers. So I think it's just unfortunate to see people go on there and lash out. And like you said, the other issue too is the ability to hide on social media. Facebook is a lot better now. Obviously, they've been scrutinized, of course, for a lot of different things, but you can't hide on there as well as you can on the other platforms as you talked about. And I think it's a big problem. I've seen it happen to me. It's happened to Eddie. It's happened to our staff. I've seen it happen to other people. And it's not just hockey. It's all kinds of other stuff. We see it all the time. And I think, like you said, the idea of holding people accountable with like their name or where they work or go to school would definitely go a long way to helping, because I mean, he had to turn off his comments on Instagram. That's how bad you knew it got. So it's unfortunate. I think the good thing out of this is, like you said, he did handle it well. He was a professional, put out the thing, and I think he's going to move forward. I know we rallied behind him on social media, and a lot of other people did too. So I'm hoping moving forward, he's going to be fine. Obviously, he's going to, finish out his junior stuff this season, and then hopefully be back next year at the NHL, and then hope to see him play well then. But like I said, he's going to be a star. And I think this is going to even make him, even better as a person, Eddie. I think the way that he did it showed extreme maturity. He could have gone back and lashed out or went back at it with people, and he didn't do that. He just had that statement. He didn't want to give credit to the comments, which is the same thing that we did on our thing. I saw the people post the comments that they said to him. I'm not going to repost that stuff. I'm not going to give those people any kind of audience. And I think with him turning off the comments, some people may think that wasn't a good move, but to me, I think it's the right move. If people are going to be that bad, don't give them an audience. Don't, he can turn on the comments later. It's his own Instagram. He can do whatever he wants. And if it's getting that bad and out of control, he shouldn't be subject to it. Yeah, like we said, maybe he made a couple mistakes and screwed up in a couple of those games, but this is, it happens. Yeah, he's human. So it was just interesting. It was interesting to see that. And I think the biggest thing outside of this podcast and life in general is that we can learn, just be better to each other. That's the biggest thing. You may not agree with everybody. You may see someone do something you don't like, especially in sports. And of course we all get mad and we're, we cheer or we boo and the way things go. But just remember, everybody's human out there. They're all giving it their all. And, if you had a child that was 17, 18 or 19-year-old, think how you would feel if your child was getting lashed at, or if you're one of the people sending those comments and you think it's funny. I feel sorry for you. You need to go look in the mirror, because you're just pathetic. You need to figure out some other way to find enjoyment, because going on social media and doing that to somebody, it's just uncalled for. But like I said, Eddie, I'm happy the way that he handled it.
Yeah, exactly. He's a true professional about it. And I'm glad he shut the comments off, because other people shouldn't be reading that as well. It just brings all that negativity, and like you said, it's pathetic. And I can't believe that people did that. I mean, sometimes I try to have faith in humanity, but I mean, living in the world we live today, it just gets taken away from me. That's why I was joking on Twitter about how I washed my car and it rained, and someone's like, "Oh, you should check the forecast." This is exactly why I don't watch the news or check the forecast or anything like that. I just don't want to be surrounded by negativity all the time, and watching the news and things like that and seeing stories like this. It's just all negativity. That's why I just have to glue my head to hockey. My hockey magazines or a book are continuously try to evolve and get better. working in like with social media on Ducks and Pucks are reading rumors and providing the best material. So that's mostly I do. I mean, I think 95% of my day is focused and dedicated to hockey, and the other 5% is drinking. But no, I'm just playing. No, maybe I'm not.
That's a higher. I don't know. That's a higher percentage, Eddie. I don't know.
Yeah, I know,
man.
Well,
I don't know.
I didn't drink all week. I was traumatized. I was Ovechkin drunk for New Year's Eve, so I had like one of my worst hangovers ever. My birthday was the next day. I couldn't do anything. I was like, oh man, I'm done. So
I know mine's coming up, man. Team Capricorn right here on this podcast, man. Yeah. So yeah, man. Like I said, I grew up in the '60s. I mean the '80s. But anyways, you mentioned Ovechkin. He was in the news, and we talk about Comtois being a star, and we know that John Gibson is going to be in the All-Star game coming up here, and you can also vote for, if you want, Getzlaf in there too. He's the only other Duck that could possibly make it, but you can vote at nhl.com/vote. There's other players on there too if you want as well. But anyways, there's some stuff going on with the All-Star game, Eddie. We actually had a poll question this time for the show. As far as whether or not a player should be allowed to sit out of the All-Star game. Ovechkin's deciding, he doesn't want to do it. He, win the Stanley Cup. He wants to take the time to rest and whatnot. And, they want to tell you, okay, if you're going to do that, then you have to sit out a game. So we did a poll question, and over 70% of you, close to 80% of you said, well, the players should be allowed to sit out, has been the theme. But I thought it was interesting. We threw this question out to Dan Wood and Steve Carroll during the game against Edmonton. And they had a different take on this. Steve Carroll seemed to kind of have a hard time with it and was kind of going back and forth. And Dan Wood was more of the one that was saying, no, you should suspend him and, suspend him more games to prevent it. But I don't know. I don't really agree with either one of them, Eddie. I usually do agree with them, which is the funny part. But I think if a player, within some reason, if a player is hurt for some reason and wants to sit out and take the extra time, I'm okay with it. Obviously, you don't want everybody doing it and just doing it to do it. But I don't really have an issue with it. And if Ovechkin wants to sit out because of the season he had and everything and whatnot, and now you want to suspend him another game. So now he's going to sit out basically, 2 games, if you will. I don't know. I just think that I'm just not a big fan of making them have to go to this All-Star game. And a lot of people aren't even fans of it. It's not even that exciting. A lot of more people are excited about the skills competitions. So, one of the things I propose too is that they could change it up and just, they could have it later too in the season, or after the season. In fact, that's what they do with football. They have the Pro Bowl after. Obviously, football playoffs are not as grueling as hockey playoffs, of course. You may still have some people miss it later on, but they could do that. Or, like I said, they could, give you a caveat if someone's injured or something like that, they can sit out. But I don't know. I'm just not a big fan of forcing them to do it if they don't want to do it. That's just my take. I don't really agree necessarily with what Dan and Steve were saying. A little bit more with Dan. Dan was talking Steve was talking the same thing about having the skills competition and whatnot. But what do you think about this whole thing with Ovechkin sitting out and suspending players, and should they be allowed to sit out or not?
Well, I'm not a big fan of the All-Star game at all. I think it's just, it sucks when it happens because the little All-Star break, and I'm not watching real hockey. So my opinion might be biased because of my personal thing is of not liking the All-Star game. But I think if a player doesn't want to play in it or participate, they shouldn't have to. They shouldn't be forced to, and they shouldn't have to, endure punishment for it. This is the second year Ovechkin declined to go to the All-Star game. And who knows what the reasons might be. I don't know. I could speculate and say because, the NHL won't, let him represent his country, Russia, during the Olympics. But, you're forcing these players to travel an extra day when usually players have breaks and to pretty much perform like they're in a circus. I know it's not like that, and I'm like way stretching this right now. But I don't think it's an issue. If a player doesn't want to play, just say no, and they should get someone else. It gives more opportunity for other All-Stars to go. And how you can force a player to play in an All-Star game and suspend them if they don't, but then you don't allow them to represent their country and the pride that the country they grew up in. I don't get.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's a good point. I mean, it's kind of hypocritical. You're trying to make them play. I mean, I get it. The NHL All-Star game is part of the NHL and the Olympics is not. But still, I mean, if you're going to want a guy to play in some kind of competition like this, then they should be allowed to go play in something else in a bigger stage, the Olympics, and represent their country. So, yeah, I don't know. I just don't think that making someone go and then suspending them if they don't. I just think that that's kind of harsh. And I'm more on Ovechkin's side. If he wants to sit out and rest, then let him sit out and rest. I mean, I don't have a problem with it. And I don't think a lot of people are going to just sit out and rest if you let one guy do it. I really don't see a whole bunch of people doing it. I know that they talked about that in between the second and third period in this game against Edmonton, that, hey, you could have like a sub all-star game because all, these no names. I mean, the other option is, okay, don't have all the all-star type players on there. Have the younger guys play. Have it be the rookie all-star game. Change it up, or just have it be fan votes and don't even have, just all fan votes, and that's it. And then they go in if they're voted in that way, instead of, the league saying, well, you have to go. I mean, there's different ways to do it. I don't have the exact answer, but I ultimately kind of lean towards the player side in this, and that's how I feel. And I'm with you. All-Star game's kind of boring. Sorry, NHL. It is. It's not that exciting. The skills competition is a lot better. I'm just being honest. Whatever. NHL's come after me before. The NHL's come after me before for other things, so they don't like my comments about the All-Star game. Hey, bring it on. And they're not going to like these comments either that I have next, Eddie. We can go to our final topic. Obviously, the Stadium Series games, Winter Classic games. You wrote an article on this. We're talking about how Colorado's going to have another one. And you wrote one on the Ducks and how the Ducks haven't, hosted one. Obviously, they play the Kings in LA. But I thought you wrote a good article on that. And, I think it's unfortunate. I don't like how a lot of West Coast teams seem to be excluded from this. I mean, like we said, the Kings have been in a couple. The Sharks have been in one. Colorado's been in one. Now Dallas is going to get one. So I'm happy for that. But the fact, I feel like the Ducks should get another one. And I'm tired of the Blackhawks. Sorry, stop having the Blackhawks in these games. And, the Blackhawk fans are mad at me. Well, whatever. You guys can pound sand because I really don't care. I'm tired of Chicago in these games. I'm tired of the East Coast bias. But I thought you wrote some good articles. You wrote a couple on there. And, what did you think about, these coming games, like Dallas, who Dallas should play? We talked about that too in the article, and who the Ducks should play. Even if the Ducks don't host, it'd be nice to at least see them on the road to go play somebody.
Well, Dallas, congratulations, Dallas Stars fans. Congratulations. I'm so glad it's not Chicago. Chicago has played in 6 outdoor games since it started. It's just crazy. It seems like they're always going to play, and that's annoying. In my article, I noted my prediction and who I think the Dallas Stars will play. I think they're going to play the Minnesota Wild for the Winter Classic. The little North Star, rivalry right there, back when before Dallas became Dallas Stars, there were the Minnesota North Stars. I think that'd be a fun one. I heard other people talking about they might be Nashville Predators, and that'd be a good one too. But I'm kind of hoping that it's going to be in Minnesota. That'd be a fun one to watch, and I hope nothing but success for Dallas. And I'm glad they have it. As far as Nashville too, I was writing the article, and I hope you guys check it out. And don't just read the headline. I mean, click the article and read the whole thing, and you'll see all the teams I list. But I think the Ducks getting a Winter Classic is probably stretching it a little bit. But I think they can host another Stadium Series at Angel Stadium, and I think that'll be really freaking cool. Imagine watching playing the Kings freeway face-off. You can see from the freeway. I think that has a great ring to it. It's just really cool to see. I think it's time for the Ducks and show us what they got. They can have, all-star events at the Honda Center or their Fan Fest at Honda Center. There's a bunch of bars, a bunch of restaurants around the area. I mean, a really fun one to watch. And also, I'm really thinking the league went and visited over there Nissan or Center, whatever it's called, arena or stadium in Tennessee. I really think come 2021, it's going to be Nashville getting a Winter Classic. They've been rallying for one. The fans want it. Nashville wants it. The leagues have already been talking with them. I can really see them getting a Winter Classic, and that's going to be good for them too. Yeah, it's Nashville, but it's a new team. As long as they don't play Chicago, which I'm pretty sure they probably will. But as I noted, I think the Ducks can play in that Winter Classic against, Nashville and Tennessee. There's a hatred right there. There's a rivalry. The players don't like each other. You can tell that on the ice. Obviously, Getzlaf and Johansson hate each other, and the fans hate each other. And I think it's a game that can bring in crowds, that can get other people watching. I mean, there was other teams that I talked to, fans of other teams that say, yeah, when Ducks either play the Kings or like a team like Tennessee or Nashville Predators, they tune in to watch, just hoping that to see some action because those teams hate each other. And I think that'll be a really good way to get the Ducks in a Winter Classic. But obviously, I'd love for the Ducks to host, a game at Angel Stadium of a stadium series. I don't think it's going to be the Kings. If they do, it might be the San Jose Sharks, a northern and southern thing. The Kings are rumored to play against the Colorado Avalanche when they have their stadium series next year in Colorado Springs. As BSN Adrian Dater mentioned in his article, the Kings ownership have a lot of connections with Colorado. They own a paper over there. They own part of the Broadmoor Hotel. If you guys don't know what the Broadmoor is, it's one of the best hotel in the country, if not one of the best in the world, a luxury hotel over there. And so the Kings are most likely, it's not really set in stone yet. They're just working out all the logistics of it, but they're most likely going to play the Colorado Avalanche. So that's going to be the Kings' third outdoor game, and the Ducks only have one. So I think it's time for the league to look at the Ducks and see the potential they have. And I know a lot of fans too say, oh, well, the Winter Classic or outdoor games supposed to be cold. You know what? It's hockey. It's time for a change. And one fan mentioned too, why not put it in a neutral location and have teams play? I love that idea. Having just, pick a neutral location and have, the West Coast teams that, have that hotter climate play a neutral spot and host a Winter Classic. I think that'd be a great idea. And I know every Ducks fan would love to see the Ducks in an outdoor game and in a Winter Classic or a Stadium Series game. And I just keep my fingers crossed. And if you guys haven't checked out the article, we'll retweet it on Ducks and Pucks, and you guys check it out. And then go ahead and leave your comments and thoughts, and let's just talk about that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think it'd be great, obviously, and a lot of fans would too. I mean, we saw the Ducks and the Kings play each other, and we saw San Jose and LA play. So why not have San Jose and Anaheim play? I mean, that would make sense, but obviously Gary Bettman doesn't always make sense. So I don't know. It may not happen, but it would be great to see it. I think Angel Stadium would be a great spot, like you said, freeway series, and you're watching the freeway. Obviously the Rams and the Chargers are getting a new stadium. There's a possibility there. You also have the Rose Bowl too. So, I mean, there's plenty of venues in Southern California, for the Ducks to host one if they don't go somewhere. And I'm down with a neutral site, like you said too. Hey, if they want to pick a spot and go play somewhere else, I'm fine with that too. I'd just like to at least, we need some more West Coast love in some of these Stadium Series and Winter Classic games. It'd be nice to see that kind of change. So, with that, we're going to wrap up the show. We'll try to do these every week. Obviously, the scheduling has been kind of crazy. Also, the All-Star break, there'll be a little bit of time there too. But we'll have some more watch parties coming up. We're actually going to have one with a former Ducks player. We're not going to announce it now, but we'll announce it in the future. So look for that. That'll be coming up. We'll have more giveaways and things to do as well. You check out patreon.com/DucksNPucks. We give away game tickets every month and gift cards to Cool Hockey every month. So you can buy a jersey, hopefully a Ducks jersey. But if you want to buy a jersey for another team, you can use that gift card. It's $200 to buy a jersey for any team that you want. So check those out as well. And hopefully the Ducks can turn around this losing streak. We can only go up from here, I hope. And let's go Ducks.